Welcome back. If you're new, my name is Ashley, and this is Agent Renovation, where I teach agents winning strategies and winning considerations for passing the levels of the agent game. In today's video, we're going to speak about a subject that I think almost all agents fall into this pitfall at some point in their career, and likely in the beginning or at times of massive up level. And I've never seen agents speak about this, and I think this is a pitfall that I wish somebody had warned me about. It's the normalization of money. It's why do agents spend big? How is it that agents become conditioned to spend large amounts of money? In the real estate game, agents make great money, and when the wins start, the wins are big. And what ends up happening is agents get conditioned and normalized to large amounts of money coming in. They get normalized to being comfortable with receiving large chunks of money. You have to think about it this way. In Canada and the United States, it is normal and typical for a household to earn $100,000 in a year, a set income that comes in gradually and is fed to the family in specific amounts. It is not as easy to part with large chunks of money when you've worked really long and hard time periods to earn it. The longer and harder you work for it, the more consideration goes into spending it because you know how long it took you to get it. And this creates a pitfall for real estate agents because we are normalized in another direction. We get normalized to the fact of making large chunks of money out of nowhere. So all of a sudden, one day you can make $50,000. If you have a great month, you can make $100,000 in 1 month. And it often does come in fast and easy. Thus, the mind doesn't assign the same weight of value to the money earned. And agents begin to spend with the same mindset of their earning. And this works until it doesn't work. This is a massive pitfall in the business because what happens is when times are good, times are great. When it is flowing in our industry. And when the tap gets turned off, it is off that next day. And this ties back to monthlies. Monthlies are the Achilles heel of a real estate agent. Accumulating monthly costs is one of the worst things you can do as a real estate agent because in changing markets, you will feel it immediately. And for this reason, I think it's really wise that agents are educated ahead of time of how to manage their money and not to spend it at the rate that it's coming in. Not to normalize earning large amounts of money to thus mean you're gonna spend large amounts of money. Just because you earn your money fast in real estate and sometimes very quickly and easily doesn't mean you should be spending it quickly and easily. These are your resources for the game. Your dollars are a tradable asset for every other resource in the game and are your leverage point to your next levels of growth. Managing your resources is key, but to manage your resources, you must first understand the value of them. And as a real estate agent, it's easy to get tricked into not seeing the true value of the dollars you're bringing home because of the way you're earning them in time and energy. When I first started doing really well in real estate, I was very accustomed to spending my money just as quickly as I earned it because I thought more of it was always just gonna keep coming in at that rate because it was. One week I wouldn't have some of it, the next week there'd be tons of it. So you get conditioned to think that's gonna be how it always is. As the years went on, I became very comfortable with receiving large amounts and letting go of large amounts. And I kind of started to think, how did this happen? And I thought back to an example of when I was in university. When I first was in university, I had a visa, my first Visa card. And I remember this like clear as day. It had a $400 limit. And at the time, relative to what I was earning and how hard I was earning my money and working for it at my little side jobs that were minimum wage, $400 felt like a lot of money. And when that credit card got maxed, I remember losing sleep. I cried over it. It felt like the end of the world. It felt like so much money. At that point in time, that's what I was comfortable with. I was comfortable with carrying that amount of debt and I was comfortable with my wealth edge. I call them wealth edges and debt edges. This is what you're comfortable receiving and what you're comfortable spending or owing. In life, as our income goes up, we naturally become more comfortable with holding more wealth, our wealth edge, and spending more wealth or accumulating debt. You know, the first time I had that credit card, it felt like the end of the world with the $400. But as the years went on, I felt comfortable carrying $1 million of debt in a mortgage, and you become normalized with earning and spending. For agents though, it's kind of tricky, and you've got to be the one in control of your mindset to keep yourself grounded when it does start to take off. I liken it to the example of the lottery winner. You know, have you ever read all those stories where somebody wins the lottery and then they suddenly spend it all right away? It's because they received it so easily and they didn't carry a weight of value to it. And this is exactly the same scenario that can happen to a real estate agent. Just because it comes in quickly and easily, you don't want to spend it quickly and easily. So keeping a good money mindset as you up level in your real estate game and you start collecting more resources is going to aid you in your long game. As an agent in your agent game, you have a long game ahead of you, and how you manage your resources is going to be king. You're kind of like the athlete in your game. And you guys, I'm sure you've heard the stories of the athletes as well. How many professional athletes have you heard the stories of that hit it big out of nowhere, but as soon as their short game is over, they got nothing left for the long game? This is exactly the same scenario that can happen in an agent life. So what do I mean when I say they have nothing left after their short game? Well, when you're an athlete, often you have prime years. Their prime years are their years to collect resources, and those resources could last their entire long game if managed correctly. However, they often spend most of their money that by the time their career is ended, there's multiple stories about all sorts of athletes in different industries where the fast money goes quickly and then they don't have anything left for the rest of their game after their prime years are done. I want you to think of the fluctuating markets as your prime years. When the market is up, these are your prime years. So when you start collecting huge dollars in the prime markets, don't start spending them all because you're gonna need them for the long game when you're outside of your prime years. Unlike athletes though, we go in and out of prime seasons. As agents, we can have 2 great years, 3 great years. Sometimes that tap is flowing for years and it turns off. And when it turns off, it can turn off for 2 years, it can turn off for 5 years. We don't know when it's turning back on. We all know we have a prime season coming again, but we don't know when it is. So learning to manage your resources for a long game strategy, even when you're in your short game and everything's going great, is gonna be a winning strategy for you being long lasting in this industry. Next, let's talk about how you could avoid this pitfall. We just used the analogy of athletes that don't manage their resources well in the short game for their long game. So let's look at what happens when an athlete does manage their short game to pay forward for their long game. That would be an example like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan knew how long his prime years were. He even took himself off the court when he decided his prime years were over. However, when he ended his short game, he had his entire long game already set up. He had leveraged all of his resources from over the years into multiple businesses and other ventures that then would fuel him forward once his prime years were done. And that is intelligent thinking. You too can think ahead in your real estate game and manage your resources to build greater wealth and go in new directions or other directions for your long game or after your real estate life. You want to look at your resources in your winning short game of how can you use those dollars to go work for you to take you through the long game. Thanks for watching today's video all about the money pitfalls that an agent can fall into. If you loved today's video, hit the like button, the subscribe button, or leave me a comment. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon.